Drafties, Mel, I am Field. We are discussing the top wide receivers in the 2025 draft class. And Mel, we talked at the end of the last block about how for a long time it was Luther Burden as maybe not just wide receiver 3, but even wide receiver 2. Matt Miller, our guy, had him at wide receiver 1 for a good chunk of this season. But is Luther Burden still a lock to not just be wide receiver 3, Mel? Is he a lock to go in the first round anymore?
No, he is not. Luther Burden III is a wide receiver who, going into this year, based on what he had done the previous season with 86 catches, 14-yard average, and 9 touchdowns, he was the guy. He was the guy that people couldn't handle. So you expected this year for an improvement to basically happen, and all of a sudden Luther Burden III is a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Didn't happen. He was quiet in some of those games. Theo Weiss Jr. was the guy they went to. Now, to Luther Burden III's credit, in a lot of those games late, when they had to come back, they were the comeback kids. They were the cardiac kids in college football. I mean, they came back in games, storming back in the second half, made those halftime adjustments, got the ball to him late, and he made some key catches in those games where they had to make those dramatic comebacks. So for Luther Burden III, to answer the question, if he goes in the first, is Pittsburgh a possibility? Washington Commanders would be a possibility late first. If not, he drops into the second round. And that's one of those guys right now you say, okay, with Emeka Egbuka soaring and another receiver jumping up there as well, which we'll get to in a second, Luther Burden III has dropped back a bit. Does that mean it's going to remain that way to late April? Who knows? Yeah. And let's face it, there's a lot to like about Luther Burden III. From what happened in 2023 to glimpses this year of what we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah, Mel,
one team loves him, Field. Yep. He still goes in the first. But right now, the consensus of the calls I made is early to mid-second round.
Mel, I'm getting the same vibe right now. Maybe late first for Luther Burden III. I had him at 25th in the most recent mock that I did about a month ago. So let me just break this down, because there are a lot of people that are still big fans of Luther Burden that are saying you guys are crazy for thinking this guy won't go in the first round. Heck, Mel, I remember a couple months ago, we answered a question from Twitter when someone called us bleeping crazy for thinking that Luther Burden could fall into even the 20s. Here is where I think the NFL is at right now with Luther Burden, at least based off talking to people that have scouted him closely. What changed for Luther Burden that led to a dramatic downshift in production from 2023 to 2024? We see this happen with guys when they lose their quarterback. Wasn't the case? Brady Cook was the quarterback in 2023. Brady Cook was the quarterback in 2024. By the way, Brady Cook, pretty darn good quarterback. He's going to be at the Combine this week. This is not some total black hole at quarterback that led to Luther Burden falling off. The explosion was not nearly as impressive this year as it was the year prior. The run after catch stuff was not even close to the same area in 2024 as it was in 2023. Scouts have been trying to figure out why. What happened? It's why, and we talked about this weeks ago, Mel, these next 2 months are more important for Luther Burden III than maybe any other wide receiver in this class. It starts with running the 40 in Indianapolis this week. If you can check off that box, we may start to talk about him back in round 1. But based off what he put on tape this year and based off some of the questions that scouts have right now, he's not a lock to go in the first round. Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum, though, Mel. Some hard-charging wide receivers, including one from Ohio State that you teased in the last block. I would say, Mel, that Ohio State has one of the better histories in terms of wide receivers getting to the NFL. How about this? None of them in the history of the college football program at The Ohio State University have more career catches than Emeka Egbuka, who had 202 during his time in Columbus. What's the skinny on him?
Versatility, professionalism, route running, consistency, blocking, doing the dirty work, doing all the things a lot of guys don't want to do and frankly don't do. He does. The production, remember in 2023 he had that ankle injury. That's why his numbers went down from 74 catches to 41. Average per catch down from around 15.6 down to, 12.6. Bottom line is this year he bounced out 81 catches. Okay, he was the key guy, 10 touchdown receptions. He had a concentration drop here and there. That was it. Yep. He was money. And there's word that he could run in the 4.4 range, or he has and he will and he can. Yep. If he runs in that 4.45 range, Emeka Egbuka is going in the first round and maybe in the middle of the first round. I'll tell you, the great fit for him, if you say great fit, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ooh, I like that
They have had diva receivers, right?
Yes, they have.
They've always had that.
Yep.
This guy is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
He is the ultimate professional, all business, experience. You can count on him. We talk about quarterbacks. First one in, last one out. Who's the great leader? Who sets the tone? Who does everybody go to for knowledge and information and everything you need to be a great football player? Emeka Egbuka is that guy. So for me, when you're Pittsburgh and that's what you need, regardless of who the quarterback is, you better get some weapons for that quarterback. I'm hoping it's Justin Fields. We'll see how that goes. Bottom line is Emeka Egbuka right now, the 40-time critical, but he played like a first-rounder.
Yeah, Mel, I'm with you there. And by the way, the character comparison that I've gotten on Emeka Egbuka is Terry McLaurin, former Ohio State wide receiver as well. Now, that's saying something because Terry McLaurin had some of the best football character that some scouts have ever covered in their time in the NFL. And perhaps it's just because they both played wide receiver at Ohio State. All I'm saying is, to Mel's point, this is the kid that you can count on 8 days a week. There is zero concerns that Emeka Egbuka is not going to put in the work. This guy is going to bring it every time he is on the field and everything he has to do off the field to ensure that he is a very good player at the NFL level. Last thing that I will say about Emeka is this guy's clutch, Mel. This guy is clutch. I remember 2 years ago against Notre Dame, very contested game. It just felt like every time I turned, Emeka's making these huge catches. This past season as well, huge catches. And you mentioned the selflessness. One of the realities for Ohio State this year is that Emeka Egbuka became the number 2 wide receiver, right? They have this freshman phenom and Jeremiah Smith, who might go down as the greatest Ohio State wide receiver ever. I know that sounds like hyperbole, but that's how special of a talent he is. Emeka said, I'm good with that. I'll do everything else I need to do to help us win games, whether it's blocking, like you mentioned, whether it's just making short yardage catches to move the chains. You name it, he did it. This guy who was 29th in my most recent mock draft and 25th in my overall top 25 rankings has a real shot to be a first-round pick. All right, take one more look at Mel's top 10 wide receivers because we are not done, nowhere close to it because there are plenty of more wideouts that we are going to discuss. You can see the first 7 right there, the 3 others on the bottom. A reminder, these are going to be updated. So what you see right now, it's like a Snapchat. It's going to go away soon enough. Find a way to store it in your memory for just a little bit and then check back Monday or Tuesday to see the updated top 10 rankings. But we have more on the wide receivers coming up in just a bit, so do not go anywhere. First draft, rolling along. He's Mel on Field.